Wow, this is a lot. I started crocheting when I was 8 or so, and no, maybe I was 7. I was really wanting to learn how to knit. There was this one grandmother kind of person that I knew, and she said that she could teach me, but she instead taught me how to crochet. Because in Korean, the word for crocheting and knitting is pretty similar. The only difference is the name of the needle. So that's the kind of funny story. But yeah, let's go through everything that I created. But before that, I present to you a challenge. Guess which one I made 14 years ago and a couple of months ago. This is a cardigan that I made in 2020 during the big TikTok revolution of the Harry Styles cardigan. I changed up the colors and added a lot of browns and reds, and this is the final product. It was my first time crocheting in a houndstooth pattern. That was what allowed me to crochet and design my own skirt afterwards. It came out really oversized, but I love it and it's cute and comfortable, so I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. My second piece is based off of a Korean traditional hanbok. I wanted to wear something that was based off of my culture and my heritage for my graduation, and I spent a couple of late nights just trying to figure out how to make it look similar to the Korean traditional dress. I wanted to really have this embody who I was as both someone who loved crocheting and designing fashion, but also as a Korean American woman. This entire piece is made out of recycled or reused yarn. The yarn inside here I actually found donated to the engineering and design building at my school. I crocheted most of the body with the blue yarn. So I was like, okay, I don't know what else to use for the arms, but thankfully one of my friends had some pink yarn that she was using that actually forced me to come up with a design that's slightly more unconventional for a hanbok. I'm going to rate this piece an 8 out of 10 just because it doesn't fit my body as well as I wanted it to. I think if you have ever been to my channel before, you'll recognize this piece, but it's the Granny Hexagon cardigan. I love this one so much. I was playing around with the concept of mermaid core, and I wanted to do something that was very wearable. So I took inspiration from the beach and made this part the sand, and then this is the waves, and this is the ocean. I'm really proud of this one. It did also come out a little bit bigger than I was expecting, but I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Next up, we have two shrugs. So this one is, honestly, I can just use this as a scarf. Yeah, so this will be a shrug and a scarf. But I made this one out of this really thin yarn with these little pom-poms. I was watching different tutorials and I had no idea what they were saying, so I ended up making up my own pattern for this, even though it was my first time crocheting a shrug. I actually wore this in public a lot. In college too, I would wear this with like a little cropped top, and I had a couple people on the street tell me that my outfit was really cute. And I have not been able to forget that rush of dopamine when I heard that. So I think I'm going to have to give this one a perfect 10 out of 10. My second shrug is this really light mohair silk shrug. I was crocheting this for a runway where I was trying to show 3 different looks, and they were inspired by the question of if 3 mermaids walked into a runway, what would they wear? And it's sort of ironic because I wasn't even really thinking about the fact that The Little Mermaid was coming out, or the fact that mermaid core was like a really big TikTok trend. I literally was just thinking that I love mermaids, I've always loved mermaids, why don't I crochet something related to that? And I remember I only had one look left, but there was something missing from that look. I walked into the yarn store near my college campus, and immediately I fell in love with this blue silk mohair. I thought, oh my goodness, this is so gorgeous. I need to have it. I need to have it. And it was like $20 per skein, and I had never paid like more than maybe $3. And besides, I had most of my yarns just as leftover yarns from like commissions, so it was really expensive, and I was like, I don't even know if I should be spending this, but I spent it. Actually, I haven't worn this out, so I think I have to dock a couple of points for that. I might give it a 7 out of 10. So this was a scarf that I probably crocheted when I was 8. I'm not sure. Maybe I was 12. Because I live in a place where there's no winter, I have instead been choosing to wear this as a top that I layer over my shirts, especially this summer when I want to layer, but it's way too hot and I don't really want to put like a jacket on top. So this is a really fun way to do that. I'm going to give this one maybe like a 7 out of 10. This top I was making in an effort to figure out how to use up my scrap yarns. This is another sustainable object, which I love. I like to layer this over dress shirts and tank tops and kind of whatever else. I don't really like wearing it just by itself. I also am pretty proud of the ribbing in the back. I love putting ribbing in the back of my shirts instead of ties, just because ties are pretty annoying to constantly like open and then tie back up. I think that the front though could have had a little bit better construction, and I can see that there are like little bits sticking out, and so I think I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. I created this actually to match a skirt that I've already made, and you'll see it later in the video, but I like putting the two pieces together and it creates this really fun real-life mermaid effect. Because it's simple on its own, I would give it 7 or 7.5 out of 10, but when it's with the skirt, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 because it's actually one of my favorite outfits to wear. I love this. This is a one-shoulder black top with a bunch of distressed details. So I added little distressed parts in the bottom of the chest, so right here. And then I also added a netted detailing throughout. In my personal style, I love wearing one-shoulder tops, and so this was the first one-shoulder top that I made, and I was using up my black scrap yarns, and it was almost scary how I finished my last part of the sleeve and was just done with the yarn. Like, I might have had 1 inch of yarn left. I think that the fabric could have been a little bit softer, so I'm going to give this piece a 9 out of 10. This is a sweater vest. I really love it because it's reversible and it has both sides. It's a square neck and it laces up like a corset. And you can tie a bow at the bottom or just leave it hanging loose. And then this side is a v-neck with white stitching at the top and bows right on the chest, which I think is super cute and pretty. It is big on me because I actually designed this to be a menswear piece. I originally didn't have bows in this because I crocheted this a couple of years ago for my brother to wear. If I was wearing this for myself just because I don't like oversized sweater vests, I think I would give it a 6 out of 10. But in terms of seeing it on other people, I would give it a whole 10 out of 10 because this is one of my favorite pieces ever. I have a bunch of these granny squares that I either like gave to everyone to use as dishcloths, and I gave my mom 4 of these. I was asking her mom, do you use these anymore? And she was like, we have a whole bunch of other dishcloths too, so you can take it back. So I decided to take this one back and then add the beige and the blue. So normally it just ended in the yellow, and then turned it into a halter neck top that you can wear over your clothes. I think it's super cute. I think the likelihood of me wearing this top is pretty low though, so I'm going to give this piece a 7 out of 10. Wow, what is this? Why are there strings hanging out? Well, that was intentional. I had 2 tiny balls of silver scrap yarn, and I decided to make a spider web top, and I realized that I wanted to make it a little bit more realistic, and so I wanted to add like these extra kind of strings. This has been a really good piece to layer over button-ups, over crop tops, under blazers, under leather jackets. This is probably one of my favorite pieces that I've made this year. Woo! So I'm going to give this one a pretty high rating, maybe like a 9.5 out of 10. I don't really know what this is. So the backstory behind this is that the gray part was like a bandeau that I had made for myself when I was like a preteen, or maybe like 10 or 11. When I was doing the fashion show a couple of months ago, I had a model that was going to wear that sweater vest. I was trying to figure out what to give for his bottoms, just because I had never crocheted pants before, And I also felt that crocheting pants for someone who's around 6 feet would take way too long. So I was like, okay, I'm not even being paid for this. Let me figure out a way to be creative. So then we decided to pair jeans that he had owned with a belt, and a belt that was going to have fringe on it. And I was inspired by a jellyfish. I used this skein of scrap yarn that I had. It was this blue and pink and white yarn. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10 just because I have no idea how to wear this. I might have to repurpose it again. This is one of the first tops that I crocheted. As you can tell, none of the yarns are woven in, and that is because even my young self realized that this top was not something that I would wear, and that sometime in the future I would be unraveling this to make another project. I like the concept of the design. I love the ribbing in the back. I like the cool netting stitches, and I love the way that I mixed the lemon peel stitch. The top doesn't quite fit right, and I didn't really make the cups at the top fit each other well. It was an A for effort, but I think the execution might make this a 6 or a 5. This is a purple halter top that I really love. I used single crochet throughout, so kudos to my patience. It's really cute. I don't quite wear it a whole lot because it's one of the kinds that tie in the back. With the amount of times that I've currently worn it, even though I've had it for about 10 years, I think that I'll have to give this a 7 out of 10. This is the first dress that I crocheted with the purpose of making a dress, if that makes sense. I had some green cotton yarn from a scarf that I made when I was 7, and I noticed that I had a lot of lumps and bumps. So about a month and a half ago, I unraveled everything. And these 2 granny squares here and here that I had left over from a project that I did. I think it was like a really big blanket that I ended up selling to someone when I was like 9. I decided to incorporate them into the dress to make it a little bit more fun. And then this brown is scrap yarn as well. I haven't gone to the beach this summer, so I haven't worn it yet, but I think I will wear it when I go to the beach, which is a really good sign. I love how sustainable the entire process of making this was, using yarn from 14 years ago. So I think that I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Greetings. My camera was overheating, so I ate dinner and went for a walk and then back. So this is the next skirt that I wanted to show. This one also is a story. I made a blanket, my first blanket ever, and it was this granny square blanket. I did not have the patience to make it any bigger. So then I ended up finding it again this past year. And then for my runway, I thought maybe I could turn this into a skirt. I mixed some more recycled yarn here, and then I had some scrap yarn. So these like tiny little pieces of white and pink are the scrap yarns from that one belt, the fringe belt that I showed you earlier. This is actually wool, I think. And so then I ended up making a full skirt. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 stars because I really don't wear this. You've seen me make this skirt, but it's a Barbie core skirt that I made to watch the Barbie movie in. I was so excited for the Barbie movie this year. I was very, very ambitious and decided to try to make 2 Barbie related crochet projects in 1 week. So the first one was the skirt. It was a houndstooth, and I think it really came out beautifully. This is something that I have worn like maybe 5 or 6 times already, and I've only made this like 2 weeks ago, so that's definitely a really good sign. It does also have a lace-up detail on the side, and I stated earlier that lacing up is not necessarily my favorite, so I think that will make it round up to 9 points. This is... okay, I also love that skirt, but this also is one of my favorite skirts. This one took so long to make, like maybe a week or a week and a half. And it took up all of my brown and green scrap yarn. A Kozune's skirt. She has a video on like fairy core crochet, and I thought, oh, it's really pretty, but I want to make it a little bit wearable for more seasons. So I decided to make mine in puff stitches, mesh stitches, added a lot of like triple crochets, double crochets, kind of went all over the place. Every time I wear it, I just want to like skip and jump and dance in it because it's so flouncy and big and bouncy. The first time I wore this, I was out just walking by a lake and more elderly ladies came up to me. They all said, "Oh, I love your skirt, like where did you get it?" And that made me so happy. I don't know if I told them that I made it because I was just in such a good mood. So I think I'm going to give this one actually a 10 out of 10. So this is the first life-size skirt that I made. I think I probably started making this when I was like 12 or 13, maybe 10. I ended up mixing this white and I wanted to make this cutoff intentional. So then I did the same thing with the pink, white, and blue yarn and added these sort of like shell stitches at the end. And I think it's really cute. The only problem with this skirt is that I ended up making the waistline a little bit difficult to pull over my hips, and I didn't add like elastic or add any sort of lace up detail. So pulling this up is possible, but it's really painful. I think I'm going to have to give it a 7 out of 10. This is one of my proudest designs. I think it is gorgeous. If you can remember, this top earlier is supposed to go together with this. It looks like a mermaid's tail. I added a little slit on the side so that it kind of fans out more like a tail and also allows my legs to move a little more freely. And I added this really beautiful kind of lacy pattern in the middle here and also added some mesh. This is actually really wearable to wear outside as well. On the side there's a lace-up detail, but I found that I made the skirt big enough that I don't really need to use it and I just keep it laced up, which is great. I think this one is a 10 out of 10. I'm planning on wearing this a lot more often. Yay! Okay, now it's time for accessories. Here's the first one. As you can tell, it's pretty clearly Barbie core. This is a belt that I made. This is prototype 1 of the Barbie core skirt that I was trying to make, but I made a mistake and it was not wearable. Hence, we had Barbie 2.0 and that skirt came out beautifully, but I decided to not unravel this. I had cut off strands for each color after I'd switched, and I just felt like it would waste even more yarn if I tried to unravel it and make another project. So that I decided, what if I turned this into a belt? And it ended up being a really beautiful set with the skirt. I think that once again, lacing up makes it a little bit of a minus for me, but otherwise it's really pretty and something that can layer over a lot of white and black and pink pieces, I think. So let's give this an 8 out of 10. I made this as a complete kit, like complete beginner. I think maybe when I was 8 or 9 or 7. And the pig's tail is the strap, which I think is really clever. The eye, as you can see, has fallen off, so that kind of docks off points. But I think once I take him to the Amigurumi hospital, which is literally just me sewing things, I will be very happy with him. The next is another bag that I made. I'm guessing that 9-year-old Lydia didn't quite know what else to do with this bag, so I'm going to have to give this one a 5 for now, but it has the potential to be a lot higher just based off of what buttons I add and what character I turn it into. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I actually still have some peach colored yarn left. And then here's Barbie's cowgirl hat that I made for the same Barbie core video. This was a really challenging task for me because I couldn't quite figure out how to get the hat to raise without buying wire. I think I ended up working the day of the upload, and that is not something that I recommend. So I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. This one is a kerchief. I actually designed it to go around my waist. Again, my style is super mermaid core. I was inspired by fisherman nets or scales, but I ended up realizing that it's also really cute as a head kerchief. So I've been using it in that way as well. It's really versatile, but I've also found that this brown is a little bit harder to match with other browns. It looks really good with colors that are not brown, which is a little bit ironic. So because of that, I think I might give it a 9 out of 10. This is my first bucket hat ever. I think I made this one when I was 12, and afterwards I started having so many different commissions for hats, like pig hats, ladybug hats, strawberry hats. frog hats, and I sold so many of them but did not take pictures of them, which is really silly of me. And that's kind of how I spent most of my teenage years crocheting, which is why I don't have as many of those pieces. I ran out of white here, and that's sort of why I mixed this cream beige color, but I think that actually added more character to the hat and makes it fun. I do like wearing this hat out often, so I think I'm going to give this one a 9 or 10 out of 10. It was really good for a first bucket hat. So this is a fish purse. I used it during the runway too, and I was so proud of it. I don't know if anyone else really noticed it because they were sort of looking at the other pieces. I had gotten my first phone, and I think I was 13 or something like that, and I was so over the moon that I wanted to crochet a phone case to hold the phone, and I thought it would be so clever to make like an openable fish head. And then this is also a separate project that I made earlier, maybe in 2013 or 2012. I wanted to make a scarf that was inspired by waves, hence I used the shell stitch and some mesh stitches. I almost used it like a fidget toy. When I was working on the runway this year, I thought, oh, what if I combine these two pieces and make it into a handbag? My only complaint with this is that I haven't attached a button yet, but that's a really easy solvable issue. What would you give this? I think I might give it an 8 out of 10. This is my first bag. It's a little hobo bag. I think I made this one when I was 8, and I was using this gray yarn that I had chosen with my mom. We went to the yarn shop for the first time. I always thought that my mom was the most stylish person in the world, so then I asked her what would be a good color for a bag, and she chose this color. She said, oh, this color is so beautiful, which is how I ended up using this for the bag. And if you can recognize this color from the top, like the scarf with the yellow ends, yes, you're correct. But it actually does hold a lot of things, and I think considering that it's a first project, I did well. So I think I'm going to give this an 8.5 or 9 out of 10. Oh, this one's really fun. So I did another thing pretty similar to what I did with the fish phone cases. When I started making the phone cases when I was 13, people started asking me to make similar ones. I don't know which one I was making for this, probably another fish. I was opening the trunk to my pile of yarn this year, and I saw it there. I can't tell if I ran out of yarn or just did not know sizing as a kid, but this was probably one of my like earlier scarves. I ended up putting them together and turning it into a really cute fanny pack for the fashion show. Design wise, this is a 10 out of 10 because this is really just me. It's a very Lydia design. I love it. Here is my second bag ever. I was trying out new techniques, and I just made this yellow flower that I was really proud of. And this is the first time that I was making something that could close. So I was really proud of it, and even when I look at it right now, I think that it's cute. I think I'll give it an 8 or so because I think I did do really well given that it was one of my earlier projects. So here's another clutch. If you can tell, I'm doing a ton of repurposing because I worked on a lot of things as a kid and just like stopped in the middle and forgot about them. This is a piece that I also probably made when I was like 9, and I just forgot about it. I was trying to make a thick gray scarf, just folded it over and sewed it down the sides with this fluffy kind of feathery yarn because I felt like that would kind of make the illusion of coral or some sort of sea creature. So yes, I think it did come out pretty mermaid core. Like a mermaid would hold this, I think. Because of its lack of wearability, I'm going to have to give it a 6. I made this really recently and I'm really happy with the results. It's really cute. I still haven't attached like a button or something to close it. So with how it is right now, I think it's a 7. So the reason why I didn't include this hat with other hats is just because, as you can tell, it goes along with the bag. And because I didn't have enough yarn for it to actually fit my head, I added some orange yarn. At first, I was really scared because adding orange to an already super colorful hat is risky, and I'm also someone that does enjoy color, but I don't really wear like a ton of colors at the same time. But I think that it came out really cute. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10 because it's fun. This is a really interesting project that I did, but it's like a denim necklace or denim choker. Someone had thrown away their jeans in the trash, and I thought, well, what if I can put them in the laundry and then see if I can make something out of them? I always have mixed feelings about whether this is actually cute or not. So I think because of that, the rating is going to be like a 6 or 7 out of 10. It was my first time crocheting with denim, and I want to try doing more projects with this very soon. Oh, I forgot about these accessories. Oh my goodness. There are these arm warmers. I actually think that this arm warmer is super cute. So I think I'm going to give them like a 7 out of 10. Ah! This is my second scarf. After the green scarf that I unraveled to make that mesh cover up, I might find a way to repurpose this by unraveling the yarn and making a different project out of it. Once again, A for effort, but I think for execution, it's probably like a 5. So accessories are done, and let's move on to Amigurumi. This is really fun. It's a basketball. I think I might have been making this for someone else's birthday present, but apparently I kept it. I think it brings me joy, and I might just keep this at my desk and use it as like a little stress relief ball. I'm going to give it like a 10 out of 10. I made this right when Frozen came out. I thought she was just so beautiful and could sing so well. So here is her dress. She has a little slit. Thinking about it, it actually is really similar to the mermaid skirt that I made earlier. I also sewed in these little sparkly beads onto her bodice, which I think was a really nice attention to detail. I'm going to rate her an 8. Oh yes, this is Teddy, one of my earlier projects as well. I think that Teddy is stuffed really well. I forgot about this fact, but Teddy got into an accident and his leg got dislocated, and there's no more stuffing in his leg either. So I'm going to have to take him to the Amigurumi hospital as well and sew back his leg. Given that this was one of my first projects, I would give him like a 10 out of 10. So here is a seal. The seal also needs some surgery at the Amigurumi hospital. I love the blue color, and I really liked making seals. I remember as a kid, I thought that making seals was the most fun thing in the world. So I'm going to not rate him just because it's not his fault that he's falling apart. But in terms of my own skills at sewing, I think my skills at sewing were definitely like a 6 or 5 out of 10. This is Flounder. Construction is really not the best. I might have to give this one like a 5 out of 10. Oh, this is my first Amigurumi ever. I actually really love this. This makes me happy that I think I might have to give you a 10. I think I made this when the Brave movie came out. I was so excited for Merida because she did archery, and I thought archery was the coolest thing. I remember when I went to Korea, I bought this bow and arrow, like a traditional Korean bow and arrow, and I would practice it. If I were to redo this, I would definitely make her hair curly. Otherwise, I think that the construction is pretty good, but because of the hair, I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. Yes, here's the counterpart to the question that I made earlier. This ent, or tree, is what I made when I was really young. Just looking at trees and walking by trees are how I gain energy. So I really love this tree, and I like to leave him on my desk. Rating, it would be 10 out of 10 in terms of how much happiness he gives me, but his arm is starting to fall off, so I'm going to sew him back on, and that'll make him a 10 out of 10 again. When I was a kid, I was super into American Girl dolls. There was this girl who was a couple of years older than me, and she didn't want her doll anymore, so that was how I was introduced to American Girl dolls. She gave me her doll, and I crocheted this dress for her. When I walked into the American Girl store, I ordered a doll who looked a lot more like me. So this is her little cardigan coat, and then I gave her a fringe mini skirt, and it's actually a skirt. There are like really short shorts underneath, and I also gave her these shoes which are falling off of her feet right now. This is a little bikini set. This was a scarf to keep them warm, a scarf, a little beanie, and then this is another really pretty top. This was a skirt that I made for them to wear on Independence Day. These are all in the same year. I'm guessing this was when I was 8 or 9. One of the designs that I'm the most proud of. I made it my dream wedding dress, and this is a matching veil. To rate all the doll clothes together, I think they need to be a 10 out of 10. I was so happy crocheting them because my dream was to be a fashion designer, and I was making all these clothes for my dolls starting from when I was 8 until maybe I was 15. I just kept making these like flower hair ties, and they sold really well. I probably made like 80 or more. I think they also get 10 out of 10 just for the marketability and also the fact that I was able to replicate them over and over again. This was my first doily ever. I used that really thin string and the smallest crochet hook ever for me at the time. I'm going to say a 7 or so for the doily because it's not laying as flat as a doily should, but the design itself is really pretty and intricate. This is a little flower bracelet and it's really cute, but I might open up the bracelet and then just hang it on the wall. I'm gonna hold off on rating this one since I'm going to repurpose this. Here are the rest of the granny squares from that one granny square top that I made. So these were originally designed to be coasters or dishcloths. This one is also clearly mermaid themed. I really haven't changed since I was 8. Solid 8.5 out of 10. I also have a few more projects left that I have hung on the walls. And so there are some right behind me here. There are also a couple projects above on the couch. There are these mini bags, as well as some tiny crochet lace that I made. And I also made a bunch of fruit coasters for people. And you can see a few remnants of that from that unfinished blueberry on my wall. That's basically everything that I've crocheted for the last 14 years. Let me know if there was a project that you liked the most and how you would rate it. I really hope that you can stick around for my 15th year of crochet. So if you'd like to, then please subscribe and I'd love to see you again.